morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio. So today, I want to take a little bit of a look at what I think could very well be the best new budget deck in the Pokemon trading card game. I think this might be the budget deck which is going to see actual play and support and love. And it's that Salazzle Weepinbell deck, which we kind of always knew was going to be coming. Now this one does come straight from Single Strike and Rapid Strike Master battle styles over in Japan. And the main attacker, the one you're going to be using pretty much the entire time, is going to be Salazzle. Now, Salazzle's got an attack for 2 colorless energy that does 90 damage for each special condition affecting your opponent's active Pokemon. So the theory here is extremely simple. Get a bunch of special conditions on your opponent's active, get a couple of energy onto Salazzle, and hit for really good damage compared to how much energy and prizes and all of that. You're a single prize Pokemon with 2 energy, and you're going to be hitting kind of 180, 270 a turn. That sounds like the kind of thing that could work out in your favour in the long run. So then, of course, we're left with a couple of questions. How do we get the energy on? And how do we get the special conditions on? Well, the energy we'll worry about in a moment. But in terms of the special conditions, that's where my boy Weepinbell comes in. You see, Weepinbell's got the rather redonkulous ability whereby when you play it from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon, you may leave your opponent's active poisoned and burned. So there's 180 damage, but it's not actually 180 damage. Because you see, ladies and gentlemen, you've also got the poison damage, which is 1 damage counter, 10 damage between turns. Then, of course, you've got the burn damage, which is 20 damage between turns, and then you flip a coin, and if they flip tails, then they're still burned. And then, after the next turn, they are going to be getting another 2 damage, and round we go. And that's kind of the point here. The point here is that it's not just that you're doing all of this awesome damage. It is the fact that you're also getting the special conditions on. So you can play around with basically whatever you like, and your opponent is taking extra damage, they're inconvenienced, they need to try and get out the active, but they might not be able to get out of the active, etc, 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 and life becomes kind of fun for you kind of quickly. Not so much for your opponent, but I suppose that's kind of the point. And then, of course, I know we tend to do trainers at the end in these kind of videos, but we need to mention that Scoop Up Net is very much a thing here. Scoop Up Net being an item card that lets you pick up a non-GX, non-V Pokemon, put it straight into your hand. Obviously, Weepinbell has an evolution ability when you evolve it, but then it just kind of sits there and doesn't do very much. So you need to evolve it over and over again. And obviously, you play a fat line of it. This deck plays a 4-3 line. But then, as well as playing a fat line of it, you also want to go ahead and play Scoop Up Net, so you can pick them up and reuse them. You pick up a Weepinbell, and hopefully you've got a Bellsprout sitting there on the bench ready to go, ready to evolve up, so you can go and just use that ability all over again. Frankly, ladies and gentlemen, it's kind of cool. And look, this is one of those things where it was in the same set. Alright, these 2 Pokemon were in the same set. Well, actually, one was in Single Strike and one was in Rapid Strike, but they're a double set. They're basically the same set. So this is an obvious combo that a bunch of people were going to try, but it's nice to see it working. And yes, I know we're talking about smaller tournaments, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. It's still won a tournament, and if you want to be playing this deck when Battle Styles comes out, and I know a bunch of people will, this is an excellent, excellent list with which to start. And there aren't bigger tournaments at the moment, so who's telling me this can't win a bigger tournament? The honest answer is, we don't know, ladies and gentlemen. We don't know. Now, in terms of other Pokemon, there's a little bit of a mishmash here. We're playing Scoop Up Net, so there are a couple of Pokemon that work beautifully with that. We've got Galarian Zigzagoon, which when you play it from your hand to your bench, you drop a damage counter. So here you can essentially use this to do that extra damage you need for a KO and reuse it with Scoop Up Net to do more and more damage. Obviously do bear in mind that every Scoop Up Net you use for Galarian Zigzagoon cannot be used for Weepinbell. Similarly, we've got Giratina here, and it's a similar kind of thing, but instead of doing damage, you're removing special energy. When you play Giratina from your hand to your bench, you get to discard a special energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. And you can reuse that with Scoop Up Net. Again, you're only playing 4 Scoop Up Net and you can't really recover them, so you've got to pick your time properly. But you know what? Sounds like fun to me, ladies and gentlemen. Sounds like fun to me. We've got a Mew to protect your bench because you don't want your Pokemon being KO'd on the bench, especially given your Pokemon in this particular deck have generally fairly low HP. You've got to be a little bit worried about that. We've got that Oricorio that lets you draw 3 cards if you had a Pokemon KO'd last turn. And of course, you're playing a deck with your only real attacker having 90 HP. I think it's fair to say that's going to happen most turns. But that's all right. And then we've got Kangaskhan. And Kangaskhan here is awesome because this really is a card that sees very, very little play indeed. And I love seeing underrepresented cards making a splash in these kind of tournaments. It is the one from Darkness Ablaze, and essentially for 2 colorless energy, it does 30 damage. But if any of your Pokemon were knocked out by damage from an attack during your opponent's last turn, it does 120 instead. So the theory here, of course, is you've got an alternate attacker for when you don't have a Weepinbell or when you don't need a Weepinbell. You know, if you only need to do like 100, 120 damage, Kangaskhan will do that. And then you can save your Weepinbell for when you need to use Salazzle to do a bigger attack. Frankly, ladies and gentlemen, sounds like an awful lot of fun. Now, in terms of energy, you've probably guessed by now, but it's 4 Twin Energy and 2 Triple Acceleration Energy. Now, this line makes me extremely nervous. Most decks like this, we see a 4-4 split, 8 energy total. Here, you've got 6 energy total. And you may well, especially if you're playing another single prize deck, you will have to attack 6 times in order to win the game. And that's nervy, right? That's awkward. So you need to be a little bit careful here. Certainly, if you need to attack 6 times, you cannot discard any of these. If too many of them are prized, that's a little bit awkward. Obviously, if you're taking 1-hit KOs on 2 and 3 prized Pokemon, then you need 2 to 3 attacks to win the game, and that is not going to be an issue, but do be a little bit careful here, ladies and gentlemen. This could get awkward against single prize decks. Now, in terms of the trainer line here, we do actually have 4 Professor's Research, and I just want to echo what I said about your special energy a moment ago. In some matchups, you literally cannot discard special energy without losing the game. If you need to attack 6 times to win, and you go discarding special energy, you will lose. We do also have Marnie here. Marnie, of course, is the shuffle draw. So you shuffle your hand, put it to the bottom of your deck, so does your opponent. You get 5 cards, they get 4. I like this for preserving your special energy. And then we've got that new Bruno card. Now, Bruno is the one whereby you shove your hand into your deck, draw 4 cards. Not good. But if you had a Pokemon KO during your opponent's last turn, you draw 7 cards instead. So it's a shuffle draw 7. So we've essentially got 5 shuffle draw cards and 4 discard and draw, which I like, but Professor's Research makes me super, super nervous. We also only have 1 copy of Boss's Orders here. Drags a Pokemon from the bench into the active so you can hopefully try and KO them. This is another one which makes me a little nervous. I want more than 1 copy of Boss's Orders, but that's not always, there's only so much room in the deck. Now, what we do have an abundance of here is Pokemon Search. We've got 4 copies of Level Ball, bearing in mind Level Ball will search your Salazzle and your Weepinbell, and your Mew, and your Galarian Zigzagoon, so it's not just your evolving basics here. We got 4 copies of Quick Ball to search out our basics, because we need to get your basics out to get set up. We got 3 copies of Evolution Incense to search our evolutions, of which we are playing a bunch. And we got a Pokemon Communication to swap a Pokemon in our hand with a Pokemon in our deck. And we're playing a bunch of Pokemon here, so that's going to work more often than not. Now, I've already mentioned the 4 Scoop Up Net. We've got 1 U-turn board to reduce your retreat cost by 1, but it does bounce back to your hand if it gets discarded, which is why we can get away with only playing 1. And an Ordinary Rod here, because Ordinary Rod lets you get your Pokemon back. Essentially, between Salazzle and Kangaskhan, you've got 5 attackers for the game. 4 Salazzle, 1 Kangaskhan. Which means that you are going to need a 6th attacker. So, even though you can't get basic energy back because you ain't playing any, Ordinary Rod getting 2 of your Pokemon back is huge. Because otherwise, again, in those games where you need to attack 6 times, you literally won't be able to. Do remember that Kangaskhan cannot use triple acceleration energy, only twin. Another thing to think about. And then we've got 4 copies of Yellhorn. And Yellhorn is what puts your damage from 180 to 270. Yellhorn confuses both active Pokemon, yours and your opponent's. But the goal here is you've got something with a fairly low retreat cost. And you put that into the active with a U-turn board. And then you play this and retreat into a Salazzle. Again, we are expecting our Pokemon to get KO'd every turn. So don't put your attacker up. Put something up the U-turn board. And then free retreat it, or maybe it's a Weepinbell that you're going to scoop up net anyway. And then essentially your opponent's confused and you're not, and you can hit 270. You can only do this 4 times a game because you're only playing 4 Yellhorn, but 270 is like one-hit KOing tag team territory. You'll get all the 2-prize Pokemon as well, so you should only need this really 2 or 3 times a game anyway. It's an awkward deck. Because you're only playing 1 boss's orders, you're only playing 6 energy, you're playing Professor's Research. There are things about this list I'm not a huge fan of, but I think it's quite a tight list, quite a greedy list in some ways. But there is nothing in this list which is going to cost much money at all, like 1 Oricorio, but it's generally played as a 1 of, which means the price of it doesn't really get that high because no one's looking for a playset. I like this deck. It is certainly one I'm going to try, and if you want a new deck when Battle Stars comes out, but you don't want to spend a lot of money, might I suggest this one? But now I want to know what you think about it. I want to know if you are going to try it out, or I want to know if you think it's not quite going to work. So let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.